happened about 130 years ago. Now you guys know that things were different back 130 years ago than they are today. There was this little girl. As a matter of fact, we have an old-fashioned picture. It's a real picture of this little girl. Here it is right here. This little girl's name was Hattie Mae. And Hattie, she loved to go to church. She was just a young girl, 5 or 6 years old. But she loved to go to church. And one day while she went to church, she got there and the church was full. She couldn't get in. She couldn't see what was happening during her class time. I mean, there were people standing outside the church looking in the windows. Because back then, they didn't have a building like the size of our church building. Their entire church building would have fit in this room right here. It was not a very big church. So what happened is, as Hattie was standing there, waiting to get in, and feeling very sad, the pastor of the church came walking up, and he saw little Hattie Mae. And he said, "Hattie, what are you doing out here? How come you're not inside in your class?" And Hattie Mae stood there and she said, "Because there's no room." And she was so sad. And so here's what the story actually says happened. The pastor picked her up, put her on his shoulder, and he walked through the crowd of people, through the crowds of kids, and he found Hattie Mae's class, and he found a little spot for her to sit in the back, and he set her down so that she could be part of the class time and then go to church after. A few days later, the pastor was walking through the neighborhood, and he saw little Hattie Mae, and he said, "Hattie, I'm so sorry that it was difficult for you to get into your church class the other day. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. If we can save enough money, someday we're going to build a church building big enough that any child who wants to come, there will always be room. But you got to pray with me and start saving up your money, okay, little Hattie Mae?" And so she said, and she thought that was a great idea. Well, listen, something happened. You see, back 130 years ago, they didn't have the medicine like we do today. Doctors didn't know the stuff that they know today. And so Hattie Mae got very sick. And guess what? She didn't get better, and after a little while she died. And how many of you know that's a very sad way to end a story? But here's the deal. That's not the end of the story. And so here's what happened. One day while Hattie Mae's mom was cleaning up her bedroom, Hattie Mae's old bedroom, she found underneath the bed a little coin purse. And when she opened it up, she poured out what was inside, and inside she counted out 57 cents and a little note that said, "Money for a bigger church." Little Hattie Mae had been saving up her pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters. She had been saving them up so that she could help build a bigger church. And you're probably thinking, "Well, Pastor Jamie, 57 pennies, that's not a whole lot. 57 cents is not a whole lot. It's a small amount." And you know what? The mom decided that she would take that money and the pastor. She brought it to him, and listen, it touched his heart. Because he thought, what a sweet little girl, that before she would die, she would collect 57 cents. He started talking to people about it. As a matter of fact, one day during church, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, today I want you to know that little Hattie Mae, you know, the little girl that passed away, she's been saving up her cents, her change, and there's 57. I've changed them all so that there are 57 pennies." And he said, "Today we're going to sell these pennies for more than 1 cent each so that we can raise some money to build a bigger church." And that day, as he started to say, "Who will buy a penny?" different people started saying, "Well, I'll buy one for $1. I'll buy one for a couple of dollars. I'll buy one for $10. I'll buy one for $20. And after a while, they had collected several $100. After a while, as the pastor would tell the story to different people all over the city, their hearts were touched. And they would say, oh, well, Pastor, listen, I have some extra money. Will you add this money to the money that Hattie Mae gave? And after a while, they didn't just have hundreds of dollars, they had thousands of dollars. And after a while, they were not only able to build a bigger church building, they were able to build many church buildings on their property, buy more property, and even build a university. And today, that church is big enough that any kid who wants to go to church, there's always room. That university, well, any parent would know the name Temple University. It's the university that was built because a little girl named Hattie Mae said that she wanted to do something to make a difference. You know what? Here's what that makes me realize, boys and girls. It makes me realize that it doesn't matter how big or how small you are. It doesn't matter how much you do or don't have to give. Every one of you here, you have an opportunity to make a difference. Every one of you here, you have a chance to do something. You might be saying, Pastor Davey, I'm just a kid. How many of you know the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength? If you do the simple little things, then did you know that something big can happen with the little things that you do? Boys and girls, did you know that all God asks you to do is to be obedient? And when you are, then guess what? He can take your little thing and do something big with it. Because the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Today, we're going to continue to learn about